Hello, and welcome to this presentation all about how Fraserburgh Academy is looking to reconfigure our working week. It's an exciting time, and we're delighted to share with you the result of 24 months of research, consultation, discovery, and design. My name is Mr. Walton. I'm one of the deputy head teachers here, and I'll be talking you through the highlights of what we're doing at Fraserburgh Academy to improve the working week so that it suits all of our learners and ensures that we are improving educational outcomes, but also raising the well-being and achievements of our young people. So without any further ado, I'd just like to explain our journey so far. As a team of teachers, we've been engaging in this program that we've currently got for 30 years. We've had our current structure. And as a team, we started out 2 years ago looking and asking the question, should this be our current model? Are 80 minutes the right length of lessons? Is our structure working for all of our young people? Are there any low points? Are there any high points? So we engaged 24 months of research. And as part of that research, last summer we engaged in a trial week where we had some 50-minute lessons, we had some 70-minute lessons. We also tried the different models in terms of length of lunch time and also having a 5 minutes added to break to have a hurry bell so that young people can actually get to their class and finish their break time without feeling like they were surprised at the start of the next lesson. We analysed the data that we take, looking at toilet trips and when they occur, and also when deputy head teachers are called along to see if we can support because a young person's maybe lost focus or not being respectful or things like that. And these tend to happen in the last 20 minutes, both a sudden surge in the toilet trips and also with our visits that we're called along. So that was the data. And then we engaged in some consultations with some proposals. So we had length of lesson proposals, we had structure of the week proposals, we had length of break time proposals, and we had length of registration proposals. And so we began our consultations by looking to our parent council back in March 2022. And we had positive support from the parent council towards engaging in this program of change and seeing what that change would look like. After the parent council, we looked to our teaching staff and we presented 3 different models based around 60-minute lessons and looking at whether we would have a reduced lunch or not, whether we would have an extended break or not, and whether we would have different models of the week. After the teaching staff, we presented the same consultation to our support staff back in September. Then after that, we took the exact same consultation, so no decisions made, and we presented alternatives to our students. And that was all 6 houses, Corby, Dundalk, Faithley, Kinnaird, Mormont, Falloth, and 6 year groups within each house. And I can only say thank you to our house captains for helping us with that consultation. We then consulted with parents in November 22 and had the same presentation with the same options, and the parents were able to vote with post-it notes for colour, or they could give comment if they like. And we had a library session all about that in November. And then we spoke to our local councillors. Presenting at that stage, we had come to a model which seemed to have the approval of our parents, our pupils, our teaching staff and our support staff. And we presented that to the local councillors. And I'm now going to show you the final model that we've arrived at after all this consultation. And before I show you, I'd just like to say that as a deputy head teacher who does the timetable, I was quite attached to the old timetable, and I was asked by the head teacher to open my thinking and lead the research team. So in many ways, I was somewhat attached to our old model because after 6 years of using it, I knew how it worked and I was able to make it work very well for many ways. However, when we engaged with the research and the consultation, we realized that change was needed, especially with the length of lessons. And after the 24 months, I'm now a convert, let's say. After listening to all the various stakeholders, I'm now very proud to present to you the future configuration of the working week for Fraserburgh Academy.
So here we are. We have our working week to start in the year 2023, and I'd like to now take a few minutes to draw your attention to a few of the key aspects of the work. First of all, I'd like to draw your attention to the first experience of the day that we are calling Connect. Historically, this has been known as registration class, and it is the time of the week where every learner meets with an adult, a teacher, every day, and that adult has a rare opportunity in a secondary school in that they can actually see the young people in their care every single morning. In primary school, it's much easier. The class teacher sees every child every day, all day, and they are able to pick up on and notice developments in terms of how behaviour is presenting, whether someone's hiding away or whether we've seen a sudden shift, and that can help us with our safeguarding because changes in behaviour, changes in presentation and in clothing, and can be a real sign of well-being shifts. So whilst we have a team of 6 excellent guidance teachers that look after the 6 houses of our school, and each guidance teacher has a caseload of around 200 students, as you can imagine, the idea that a guidance teacher is going to see every child in their house every day is unlikely. And whilst the guidance teachers do see each child every week, at least once a week, and with some young people that have got increased well-being concerns, they will make sure that they see them more regularly, it isn't the same as that small-scale, regular, finger-on-the-pulse attention that we had in primary school. So at Fraserburgh Academy, we would like to increase the role of our registration teachers and actually turn them into what we're going to call Connect tutors. So this morning session that used to be 10 minutes, we're now extending to 18 minutes. And in that time, parents, what will happen is that young people will obviously have the administration time done as per normal, so we'll register, we'll look at the news and any sheets to be handed out or any key messages will be read out and shared. But then we'll have a good 10 minutes or so after all the administration's done to actually engage in some quality relationship building between the classmates and also between the Connect tutor and the young people, following a programme of activities that changes each day. So one day of the week would be designated as Wellbeing Day, another day of the week we'll be looking at rights and the rights we develop as young people growing up. Another day we'll be looking at our skills development and how we're developing the 4 capacities towards being a successful learner, a confident individual, a responsible citizen and an effective contributor. So, as you may be aware, one of the mornings of each week will also be our assembly in the main hall where the year group gathers to hear an inspirational message or a key communication from a senior leader of the team or another teacher who is taking a specific theme of our Fraserburgh journey. So that is a major development, which is in introducing the idea of Morning Connect, which is our the launching point of the day for all young people. So that's at the same time each morning at 8:32. That would lead us all the way through to 8:50, the start of lesson 1. So at this point I'd like to point out that in this model that we are launching in 2023, we'll be going from our current 80-minute lessons as the smallest unit of lesson to 60-minute lessons. So each lesson is 60 minutes, and that was a major steer we got from our young people and also our staff when we consulted. Some of our sister schools that we've looked around at, some of them have, say, 50-minute lessons and then sometimes 55-minute lessons. And we asked and consulted with our stakeholders, and they all agreed that they would like the lessons to be uniform, that they're all the same length, so you know where you are and you can get into a routine. So I'm pleased to say that in this model, all lessons will be the same length. So each of the days of the week, after Connect, there is 2 lessons back to back, and then we have our first break. So compared to our current model, where break comes at 11:30, in this new model, we will have our break at 10:50. One reason why we're bringing the break earlier is that we have consulted and we've looked at the life of our young people at school, and we've considered that some young people who set off relatively early in the morning and haven't eaten anything since breakfast time, it's been a long time before 11:30, almost half the day. And so we've brought the break time a little bit earlier to recognise that and to enable young people to take on some food and also to have a bit of a mind break earlier in the day. Now, another thing we've changed here is we've added 5 minutes to the break time. Currently it's 15 minutes and we'll be extending it to 20 minutes. This allows us to have our normal 15 minutes, as we currently have, but then a bell will ring, and that will signal to everyone in the school that lessons are about to begin again in 5 minutes' time. So we call that a hurry bell, and that means that young people can finish their bagel or finish their conversation and not feel they've done anything wrong and they're instantly late, but they can then take 5 minutes to nip along to their class. Maybe they'll nip via the loo, or they'll take the opportunity to put things in the bin and make their way to class. Same for our teachers, so that we've not got somebody mid-coffee, mid-chat about what they've been at the weekend, or maybe a development that they're talking about to a colleague, and suddenly they're late for class because the bell's just gone. So that's a bit of a human shift there to make our break time a little bit more human-centric. So after the 20-minute break, starting at 11:10 will be our third lesson of the day, and then at 12:10 will be the fourth lesson of the day. And now in our new model we have our lunch starting slightly later, 5 minutes later, so not very noticeably later. And here's another point of interest that I would like to draw your attention to, and that is that every day the lunch is at the same time, 1:10. In some of the schools we've looked at that run similar models, they have a lunchtime which shifts. So on Monday it might be at 1:10, on Wednesday it might be 1:20 or 1:30, or even earlier, 12:30. And what we asked our young people, we trialled that in May, and one of the key steers that we got back from the consultation was that our human bodies don't work like that, that we get into a biological rhythm and a routine, that our body's wanting lunch at the same time each day because we get into a rhythm. So that was something that we were pleased to be able to establish in our model, which is that lunchtime will be the exact same time every day at 1:10. The other item to point out is that we have reduced the lunch hour down to 50 minutes. So where have those 10 minutes gone? Well, 5 minutes has gone into break time, as I mentioned earlier, and 5 minutes gone to the end of the day to slightly shorten the length of the day. The reason for that is that when we were consulting and when we were looking at the data, we realised that a lot of our young people have had their lunch, they've done an activity, and they're often standing ready, waiting for their class even, at about 10:45. And we believe that there is less of a likelihood for misdemeanours or boredom, and that young people will get back to their learning after 50 minutes. Now, this is where the major changes, as you can see, in terms of the balance of the week. With 60-minute lessons and the statutory amount of learning that the Scottish Government levies on schools is 27.5 hours, so within this model there is no diminishment of that, it's still 27.5 hours. With 60-minute lessons, it doesn't work out to being an even day every single day. So we were going to end up with an asymmetric week no matter what. So we looked at 3 different alternatives, and the one that was most voted for by all of the consultations, students, staff, non-teaching staff and parents, was the model you're seeing here. So the benefits that we've got are that we have 3 regular long days, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, and then 2 shorter days that the lessons finish at 1:10, but the school day would finish at 2 o'clock with our buses coming at 2. So that would mean that all young people have access to the canteen to get their lunch, especially those young people that get their lunch paid for by us. However, what it does do is it means that we don't have chopping and changing as the week goes along. Some of our models had, long days, short days, long days, short days, like alternating. And a strong steer we got from our consultation was that it would be really good to have familiar days next to each other. And so now, as I can point out to you, after lunch on Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we have 2 lessons, and then on the Thursday and Friday we have the buses coming at 2. I've written on here Senior Phase NESCOL. The SP NESCOL stands for Senior Phase NESCOL. What that means is that Fraserburgh Academy is very, very proud of our sector-leading partnership with North East Scotland College, and that we make it a priority for our young people in the senior phase to take up a senior phase NESCOL course at some point in their senior phase. The vast majority do it in their 4th year, and some of our 5th and 6th years also take up NESCOL college courses, particular things that are at the higher level, like NPA 6 or foundation apprenticeships that happen at those times. But what that means is that as a school, we've been developing this over the last 6 years to the point where it's now the vast majority of our seniors do a NESCOL college course at these times. And we've never really benefited from that, other than obviously the educational outcomes for the young people and their preparation for their future and stepping one foot into a potential pathway for them, being an adult learner, and whilst having the other foot still in school. So the benefits are tremendous, but in terms of our budget, we've not really benefited much from it. Whereas now, with this restructure, I'm able to redeploy those unused teaching minutes, as it were, and invest those into our 1st and 2nd year classes. What that means is that all of our 1st and 2nd year classes would be smaller class sizes at 20, rather than some of them being 30s at the moment. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to point out that with a decrease of class sizes, we are very confident that educational outcomes will be improved, as well as well-being for young people as well. And the reason why we're so confident is that we believe that by reducing class sizes, the likelihood of quality feedback, the likelihood of positive teacher-pupil relationships, getting attention from teachers, spotting barriers to learning, and then putting in interventions to remove those barriers to learning, all of those are vastly increased by having a better teacher-pupil ratio. So we think that the key intervention there is in 1st and 2nd year, where we have a significant area where young people rely on having interventions by their teachers with a smaller class ratio to set them up for their future qualification years. Okay, so by having these longer days here and here, that allows me to capitalize, as it were, on the NESCOL time and do what I've just proposed with the 1st and 2nd years benefiting. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to the end of the day on these days, so slightly later, compared to our current model, 35 minutes later, ending the day at 4 p.m. So obviously our town students can just walk home, or go to work, or whatever it is they choose to do, or stay back and do a study club, extracurricular clubs that will still be happening at these times, or head home. And then our more rural students will be getting on the school buses that would come at 4 o'clock. Again, many of our rural students do stay back and do study clubs and then make their own way home using their bus passes that's paid for by the Scottish Government, or other routes home like sharing lifts. So all those things could still happen here. But this bit here on the Thursday and Friday afternoon, you'll be pleased to know that while the buses will be coming at 2, ensuring that young people have access to the canteen and social time at lunch times, many of our young people will choose to head to extracurricular clubs, especially our sports events that will be happening at these times more predominantly, performance clubs, and also some of our young people intimated when they saw this proposal that they might even explore, the older ones, talking to their employers, part-time jobs, and these afternoons might be a really good opportunity for them to engage in those activities. Some of the senior students as well spoke about how making the use of their bus pass, being able to get to open days, being able to get to events in the city or even beyond on these afternoons would be useful for them as well. Some of them spoke about how they would be able to make use of this time for revision and for study in a way that suits them. But one thing that we established very early in our consultation was that for some of our younger students in the 1st and 2nd year categories, this might be an area where parents and these young people would still want some structured activity, even though it's not timetabled classes, but structured activity that we would provide as an after schools program. Many of our parents and young people will be very familiar with the Active Schools coordinators and the Active Schools programs that are presented to primary school age young people across our cluster. Now, as part of our consultation, we reached out to our Active Schools coordinator, both of them in fact are Active Schools coordinators, and when presented with this opportunity of the Thursday and Friday afternoon, they were delighted to see how the school was creating an opportunity and changing our infrastructure that would promote personal achievement and activity in our young people. And we agreed with them. We genuinely feel that our Thursday and Friday afternoons in the new model will be an investment in young people's well-being, personal achievement, and their own self-driven goals. And I'm sharing with you now our current provision that we are providing for S1 and S2 parents and young people to opt in. This activities program is very much geared towards young people in these year groups who would like to have supervised activity during their Thursday and Friday afternoons from 2 till 3 p.m. And as you can see, we've got quite a good choice where we've got some sports coaching by our professional sports coaches. We've also got our active schools coordinators providing some sports leaders training. And we also have our excellent library service who would be running a homework club. We would have some games, board games, and some crafts on the Thursday and Friday afternoons from 2 until 3 p.m. And on the Fridays, we would also have Aberdeen Football Club who would work with us to provide a football experience as well. So just to repeat, this is in addition to any extracurricular program that the school would offer year on year. Now obviously that fluctuates as we have our staffing and also with the new ideas that some of our teachers and other partners run, but that's something that we would call extracurricular activities, which are fantastic. So first and second years would still be welcome to join in with those things, such as our football teams, our school shows, our orchestras and so on, but this program of after schools opt-ins would be very much exclusively for first and second years to support parents if they wish that their young person was having some supervised activity from 2 until 3 p.m. on the Thursday and Fridays. I'd now like to just take a couple of minutes just to run you through some of the results of our consultation process, just for your awareness and your reassurance of our process. So here we have the results of our staff and support staff consultation, which, as you know, took place back in the autumn of 2022. And over here we've got the results for the question around 60-minute lessons, and that was a strong yes. We had asked the question of what should we do with social times, and as you can see, it was a strong yes for 20 minutes for break and a 50-minute lunch. This model, this was to do with deciding on what kind of a week, and as I mentioned to you before, there was some different balances where we had chopping and changing each day, and as you can see, they weren't as popular, and the big green one, which is the one that I've shared with you, got the majority vote there. And finally, the question of what to do with registration, whether to make it smaller, whether to keep it the same, or whether to extend it to 18 minutes with all the activity that I've described, and as you can see, that got a strong yes as well. Here we are, this is the same type of consultation with the same questions, but was for the parents, and this was later on in the autumn of 22 in our library, and here we have the question of 60-minute lessons, and as you can see, lots of agree here, up in the 86% agree for the 60-minute lessons. 20-minute break and the 50-minute lunch got a unanimous vote. And also the same with the tutor time, we were calling it then, now we're calling it connect time, the 18 minutes. And then the three models were looked at. As you could see, Model A was kind of mostly disagreed. A bit of interest in Model B, which was quite a lot of chopping and changing. And then finally the green one was either strongly agree or agree, which was very strong support for the model that you've just seen. And here we are, same idea but with the pupil consultation. 60-minute lessons, a strong yes. The green model that you've seen was a strong yes, and registration was either stay the same or slightly longer. A lot of the young people said yes, it would be fine to extend it as long as it was more structured activities, which is what we've listened to and what we've enacted. The biggest debate was around the social time proposal. There was large support for break time, mixed support for lunch. And overall, with all of the elements involved, it was a strong yes from the young people. So overall, we're very proud of this new idea. We think that we've discovered some excellent new opportunities and new ways of working. Very much it's going to be a model for the next generation of our town. And we do believe that once we are in the new model, we will discover new elements, new layers of quality, Everyone we speak to gives us new suggestions. For example, in a recent discussion around the final model with the Parent Council, suggestions around connecting with Aberdeenshire's voluntary action group and also the third sector, charities, and how young people could volunteer their time with this Thursday and Friday, the well-being time that we've baked in. And we're strong supporters of suggestions like that, and we are determined that this change will benefit everybody. So a quick summary of some of the areas that we're most proud of. Number one, the very origin of this change was to get shorter lessons. We think that this will be transformative and that young people and staff will find this a significant improvement in not only the educational outcomes but also the well-being of young people. And because of that, we think that teacher-student relationships will vastly improve. Not that they're terrible at the moment, far from it, but we think that it will be a greater chance for young people to engage not only in their lessons but also in their connect sessions first thing in the morning as well. We believe that this proposal is much more child-centred, reflecting on the times of the week where young people are most likely to get quality and benefit from their paid learning time, but also rescue them from some of the times in the week where they're less likely to be able to focus and they're less likely to be in the right mind frame for a timetabled lesson, enabling them in those Thursdays and Friday afternoons to follow a program of their own choosing and of their own making in many cases. We think that we're creating a way for young people to actually engage in their own personal achievements, and this is an area that all Scottish schools are challenged to think about. How do you encourage, support and challenge young people to invest in their personal achievements and not just rely on their curriculum lessons for their development? And above all, we think that this change, all these changes combined, will be an uptick in the well-being of our young people, and that has to be at the core, as we come out of COVID, of what we focus on. So I thought I'd leave you with the final stats for when we have consulted our staff, students and parents. We had a formal staff vote a few weeks back, and that has resulted in an 80% approval. Our student vote was 83% approval, and our parent consultation vote was 86% approval. And so I'll leave you now with the actual final model. And whilst there is a lot of change to take in with all this, the reason why we've tried to load up this model change with all the things that our research provided is that it's quite rare that a school gets to change its working day like this and its working week. As I said before, it's been 30 years since Fraserburgh Academy last made a significant change. And so things like the lunchtime, the break time, the tutor time, the balance of the week, the lesson times, we've loaded all that in so that we can maximize this opportunity of change to solve some historical problems and to create a new, brighter way forwards. We are continuing to engage with our local community on this as we move closer to June, when this program should start. For example, talking to our local community clubs, our employers in the area, local church groups, and also the private bus companies to ensure that we have not only covered all our bases, but we are continuing to layer on quality recommendations, quality opportunities.
So there we have it. Thank you for joining me as we look back at this 24 months of hard work, consultation and research. I'd like to leave you with the headlines of what this working week is all about. Number one, it's all about reducing the length of lessons and how that move, we believe, will be a huge change in the effectiveness of the lessons that we deliver and the success that young people have in those sharper, punchier lessons. We believe as well that we've created a better balance of our social times, where young people have an earlier break, slightly longer, a slightly shorter lunch, and that it matches the rhythms of our teenage learners. Another fundamental change with this program is it allows us to reduce the class sizes of our S1 and S2 courses And that, we believe, is a radical change in increasing the amount of feedback, the teacher-pupil relationship, the amount of attention that every young person will get in that crucial first and second year stage. Also, we have crafted daylight hours on our Thursday and Friday afternoons for our sporting events, for arts, for culture, for well-being. And with that word, I would just like to leave you with the fact that we have tried to place well-being and achievement at the very heart of our review and our new structure of the Fraserburgh Academy Working Week. Thank you very much.